episode 13 of the podcast series. Today I have with me Jermaine, Jermaine Gardner. Jermaine, great to have you on the podcast.
Good being here, Rich.
So this is an interesting one, right? I don't know much about Jermaine. I really don't. I mean, we've only had a couple interactions. I know Jermaine from Adelphi.
Psych Club too.
Yeah. Yes, shout out to Psychology Club. You know, he's been coming to some meetings, so it's been awesome to get to know him. But I still don't really know much. But I guess today will be that change.
Mm-hmm.
So to start off, just want to get into like a little bit of your background,
Okay.
right? So, like where are you from?
All right, I'm from Brentwood.
Brentwood.
I've grown up there my entire life. I graduated from there.
Is that North Long Island or? I don't even know.
Yeah, it's up. It's up from here.
Up. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And how was it living in Brentwood? Pretty good.
A lot of people like to make jokes about Brentwood being like unsafe, but
Yeah.
I think it's more of like how you just perceive and act on it. Like I pretty much like chilled with my friends, stayed at home a lot, and I went to a lot of clubs and stuff, like in school clubs.
Okay.
So I wasn't
Any
really
in particular?
My brother's keeper. It's a mentorship club.
Gotcha. We'll get into that.
Okay.
Actually, as a matter of fact, I mean, we might as well get into that right now.
Okay.
I mean, right? Like, so one thing, like when we last talked, was like you talked about this mentorship program.
Oh yeah, that's
right?
what it was. Yeah.
And you were kind of talking about how like when you get older, like you want to be a mentor to other young men or.
Yeah,
So-
I wanted to do. So when I was in high school, I had advisors, which were also teachers in the high school, and I was with them for about 3 years. So they kind of just watched me go through high school. They've exposed me to like different groups of people and different careers and stuff like that.
So that's what I wanted to ask you, right? So like you want to be a mentor, right? But like for what specifically?
I mean, I want to work in a high school, but the goal isn't just to be a teacher. It's to be a mentor. So I'm not looking specifically for a group of kids. I just want to have that like safe environment where I can be a mentor for those people. Like I want to be able to do the exact same thing that the mentors that I had were able to do, but I don't want it to just be for a club. I want it to be for all the students that I get. So any students who want that opportunity can get it.
Yeah. And within this club, right? Like you said, like different showing people like different career opportunities, right?
Yeah,
like,
career opportunities.
What would that like? What would that entail?
Well, when I was in high school, we went on a lot of trips. We've been to courthouses where we got to like meet and speak with judges.
Really?
Yeah, police officers, and then some of us actually hosted our own events where we got some of our connections that were police officers to do a cooking class with the kids in our club. So we would talk to the officers, and we would
Just like ask them questions.
yeah, ask them
about what
questions
they
and
do.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my personal favorite one was when we went to the judge, the courtroom. We got to sit in the judge's chair and we all took a picture. And they have a button under the table where if you press it, the cops will come in because like something happened and someone almost pressed the button and the American flag fell down. It was crazy.
Gotcha. And I want to ask you, any male role models that come to your mind?
In general or here?
I would say in general.
But I can give you a few.
Yeah.
All right. So he used to be an NFL player. His name is Mr. Morgan. Wait, no, Jonathan Morgan.
Jonathan Morgan.
Yes.
Okay.
Um,
What was so prominent about him?
he was just a leader, and he wouldn't like sugarcoat anything. Like if you were doing something wrong, he wouldn't be the type of person to let you keep doing what's wrong, but he would explain to you what you're doing is not okay, or you could work on it better. Instead of like shunning a student, he's more on the approach of helping you grow and making you realize what you're doing could be different. Like if I were to go up to somebody and be disrespectful, he wouldn't go up to you and be like, you're being disrespectful, you can't do that. He would say, do you really want to do that to somebody? Is that something that you really want people to see you as a disrespectful person, to make you really think, is this how you want to be perceived and how you want to grow as a person? And that's something I really respected about him, because even if you think you were in the right, and sometimes if you're just trying to mature, I think having that support in your life is very good, because it's not like
someone to keep you accountable.
Yeah,
right?
accountable, in check, always a supportive person in your like area is always good to have, and that's what made it so nice.
100%.
Yeah.
You even see it in date age, or I mean, really just in general, where especially as younger people, right? It's easy to get off the rails,
Yeah.
and drift away from, I guess, like a good path in life.
Yeah, it's easy to fall into the wrong crowd.
Absolutely. So it's important to have those people, those mentors,
Yeah.
who help keep you on the right path. And would you say that's something that, I guess, like, inspires you to want to do that?
Yeah, definitely. Because even after graduating high school and going through high school, there have been people that I've met who have very similar personalities to him, and they always have that spark in them that make me interested in wanting to learn from them. Like, I don't know if you know Ruben. He goes to Adelphi here. He works at Starbucks, but he has that like passion and drive in him that makes you want to be around him and just grow around with him, because his personality is just so like caring, giving, and it's just so like wide, where like you can be like, oh, I didn't know you can do that. That's really cool. Can I learn that with you? Stuff like that. Like, it's always so cool.
Any other male role models that come to your mind, or?
Well, my parents.
Yeah.
Well, my dad. My dad. And in my high school, it was called Fellows. There's 4 of us. So the 4 people in our club, there were 4 leaders, and I was one of them. And then my 3 friends, well, I call them my brothers now. But I would all consider.
They're not actually your
brothers. They're not actually my brothers, but like, I consider them my brothers, because we did.
Brother from another mother.
Yeah, we did everything together.
Yeah.
So I would consider them role models in a sense, because there are things that they keep me in check with, and I keep them in check. But we're also really close all the time, so we stay in touch, even though we don't go to the same college. We always try to get back to each other and have conversations about what we're doing. So
gotcha.
I would consider them another piece of like role model in my life.
Very cool. Another thing I want to ask you, what would you say is your definition of, I guess, being a good man?
Being a good man?
Yeah.
Honestly, patience is very powerful. I think if you don't have patience, there's not much you can give or take from a person. Yeah, I think patience is one of the biggest things you need in order to be a man, because if someone's coming to you and wants to give you advice, if you don't have patience, you're not going to want to listen to them. You're going to just want to take what they're saying.
Being open-minded.
You need to be open-minded.
Being a sponge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you need to be able to absorb. Yeah, you're right.
Absolutely.
I think that's one of the biggest things that you need to do to be able to grow and be a man.
Absolutely. Even in my, I haven't been on TikTok in a while, but in my TikTok bio it says student of life.
Mm-hmm.
And I really try to live by that. Because I think there's always something to learn from anybody. Even if I think we have these perceptions that, oh, this person is superior or inferior to me, but like there's always something. There's always something. There's different aspects that you can learn from someone. So I always just try to be open-minded, even if I disagree with somebody.
Yeah, and I've seen recently a lot that a lot of people have like this built-in ego in themselves, where they feel like they need to defend themselves in certain situations.
They're always defensive.
Yeah, whereas when you're defensive, you obviously can't take in, because you're fighting back what's trying to help you or even show you a different perspective. Like you said, if you don't like something, I mean, obviously you don't like it, but you can look at it from an open perspective where you don't have to be mad at it. Like, if I'm mad at somebody, I don't have to show that to you, but I can still be cordial with you, say hi or whatever, but I don't have to give that negative attitude, because you don't need enemies in life. There's no reason to dislike a person and then have negative traits towards them to make them dislike you, because now you're gonna have a group of people that dislike you now if they have friends that they want to talk to about you.
That kind of makes me think of the word stoicism, like being stoic, right? Not, I guess, not showing emotions. Do you think there's a fine line with that, where I mean, do you think as men we should express our emotions, or is there a certain way to do it?
I mean, I think it's actually very important that you show your emotions, because if you hide your emotions, you're only hurting yourself.
Yeah.
I think, like, having a supportive friend group, again, I mean, when I say I'm an emotional person, I think I'm a mentally emotional person, where I'm in touch with myself, and I can have these conversations with my friends about things that I care about and that I care about them, and we can just have like simple conversations about life. Whereas if I kept that into myself, I probably would react negatively upon it, because I wasn't able to.
You see it so many times where guys will feel a certain way, and it'll build up, and it'll pent up, and eventually they'll just lose it.
Yeah.
And I think that's very common, and it's it's definitely something that a lot of guys fall into.
Yeah, I think a lot of people also perceive that as weakness, opening up their
I agree.
emotions.
But I think there's nothing wrong with being direct with somebody and saying, hey, like,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
this is how I feel, right? It's all how you respond to it.
Mhm.
You know, there's nothing wrong with feeling a certain way, but how do you react?
Your response is actually very powerful. I think
Yeah.
using it in the right way will actually carry you like very far as a person. I just think being in touch with yourself first and making sure that you are in check, having those emotions, you won't feel regret. Like I have very little regrets in my life, and it's because everything I've done through.
Wow, you're good, man. You're good, because that's actually one of my questions.
It is.
Yeah, good for you. Jermaine's onto something. You know, it's so funny because I was thinking about this yesterday. I'm like, why do I want Jermaine on my podcast? Like, I barely know anything about him. Like, but for some reason, I mean, the two words that come to my mind is just well spoken. You know, when I talked to you that one time or two times in psychological, but I could just tell. I think you have a lot of wisdom to offer the world, and I want this podcast to be that vessel. You know. So these questions I have, I mean, they're just, I don't know, they're just things that I could see you being, like, having a lot to say. Yeah. I could be right, I could be wrong, but sometimes in life, guys, you gotta roll the dice a little bit. So, here we are. All right. And any other thoughts to wrap that up? What it means to be a good man, or you feel pretty good with that?
I mean, there's one more thing I can think of, but I need a second to, like, figure it out.
That's another thing. Take your time. Like,
okay.
I can cut stuff out. Two, it's good. It's good to pause. It's a good thing. It keeps the viewers on suspense. So.
All right. Did we already speak about accountability? Or
we talked about that when we talked about the mentorship.
Okay.
And I said, oh no, male role models. You were telling me how that NFL guy kept you guys accountable.
Yeah, I think being able to accept your own like mistakes and failures is also really strong.
Having self accountability, I think that's huge.
Yeah.
I think when you're younger, right? Like, obviously your mother and your father, you know, their job for those, I'm gonna say the first 18 years, right, keep you accountable, right? But then you turn 19, right? Or I mean, around that age, right? I think that's when the dynamic starts to shift a little bit, and that's when you kind of have to be accountable for yourself, right? Like, even for me, like, I kind of had a reality check when I came to college because, you know, high school is kind of one of those things you just had to go to, right? Like, I didn't really have a say in that. But, you know, when I came to Adelphi for the first time, I had control of so many things, what classes I take, what I want my major to be, you know, when I want my classes, like what I want to do with my life, you know. And it was very overwhelming for me. It still is, right? It hasn't changed, but I mean, obviously now I'm definitely like learning to manage it better, right? That idea of like, hey, like I'm going, you know, we're in those stages of how old are you, by the way? 19. So I'm 20. I just turned 20.
Okay.
Of, you know, kind of like, I guess from boy to man, right? Because it's not just an age. There are different things. It's having that self accountability, being able to, you know, set goals and push yourself in ways that nobody else can push you. You know.
It's actually something I want to talk about too. My junior year, obviously.
Junior year in high school.
High school, yes. Obviously, I was in this club for a long time, and I had all these mentors helping me. And the only thing that I feared at the time was once I left them, would I be able to still do the things that they were helping me with without them?
Yeah.
And my senior year, I made it a priority to get into a lot of leadership positions and do a lot of things outside of school on my own to see if I would fail. And I think that helped me a lot, and it really made me grow because I got into a lot of college classes in high school. I became the student liaison from high school, and I spoke in front of my board, and it was nerve-wracking at first, but it gave me like a lot of public speaking skills, and I grew a lot from it. And I did this summer program with Stony Brook where we did. Cool. My event was my project. It was an environment project where we went back to our high school actually, and our senior courtyard, we cleaned it up and turned it into like a garden to make it nice for our seniors, and we tried to keep it going, but I'm not sure how it is now. I haven't been in touch with them. And then my favorite one out of all of them is I had this event for the MBK club, my brother's keeper.
MBK?
Yes,
that's
MBK.
What it's called?
That's what it's called, yeah.
What does that stand for?
My brother's keeper.
Gotcha.
My event was, we went back to middle schools, and there were some kids who weren't going to their classes, and they were like dropping out almost because they weren't attending, they were failing, or they were just having problems in schools. So me and a few of my senior friends who were in the club, and some of my outside friends who I invited because I thought that they were very helpful and could help the kids go back to school. We went to a few of the houses with the principal's permission, and we would talk to the kids. And I have some of their numbers, and we keep in touch from time to time to see how they're doing. And they ended up going back to school, and their grades started going up a little bit, and now they're actually joining the club. And I'm gonna go back in a few years now when they reach high school, so I can like go see how they're doing.
That's awesome that you do that. So next thing I want to talk about is music, right? Ooh. So you may or may not know, but Jermaine is a music major at a Delphi. Are you a freshman or a sophomore?
Freshman, music education. Freshman,
music education.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So this is a little broad. Mm-hmm. What is music?
Okay.
In your own definition.
Okay. Well, if I had to be literal, music's a vibe.
Yeah.
Like, you can just sit down and chill to it. You can sit down and make music and vibe to it. I think making music and perceiving it as like, you know, music is a lot of numbers as well, and I think it's actually very technical.
Really?
And I think it's technical a lot. And going to a Delphi, I thought I would gain, well, I knew that I would gain a lot of perspective on like this technical knowledge that I didn't know about music theory and stuff like that. And when I listened to myself play from August to now, I'm very surprised at how far I've grown and how much I've understood in between that time.
Your main instrument is the piano.
Yes, piano,
right?
Yes.
How do you feel like you've grown a lot playing the piano?
Like crazy.
Really?
Like crazy, yeah.
Any classes or mentors or just teachers and anyone in particular that really help you propel?
Well, I think my music theory teacher is phenomenal. He's very funny. He's hilarious. Like,
what's his name?
Oh my God, I just was in his class.
It's all good.
Dr. Reeves. Professor Reeves, sorry.
Professor Reeves.
Yeah.
Shout out to Professor Reeves.
And then my private teacher, Borbe. She's very good at piano. She's very helpful. She showed me so many techniques that I haven't like practiced on my own, and she taught me how to practice. Like, you would think that you can sit on a piano or your main instrument for hours and just play, but that's not really how you progress. You kind of gotta like actually.
You have to have specific goals, and you have to do specific things.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, music is very broad, you know.
Very.
Because what separates sound from music, right? Because technically music's up to interpretation, right? Like if I perceive something as music, I mean technically, it can be music, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people would say heavy metal isn't music. They'd say it's just noise, but is it though?
Yeah, that's
right. I don't know.
A lot of people think that like what they like someone else has to like, or like if I don't like it, then it can't be music.
Exactly.
That's not necessarily true.
Exactly. Like you even hear the what is it? I guess the saying like, oh, like that's music to my ears. You know, so it's all perceived within yourself. So what made you want to get into music education?
I originally wanted to be. Actually, I'm gonna go back a little bit further.
Yeah, go for it.
It was random. When I was young, I wanted to be a train conductor.
How old were you at this
I was
time?
like 7. I watched Thomas all the time.
Thomas the Train. Yeah.
But then I got into 5th grade, and then I did a all the kids, we were doing good in our classes. So some of us got to go to the 2nd grade classrooms and teach them how to read, and that made me want to be a teacher. And originally I wanted to be a math teacher because I liked math. And then I got into 10th grade and I took geometry, and it was horrible. I did not like geometry. It was so horrible because of COVID, and I would study all the time, but my grades wouldn't like
reflect on
I'd get like mid 60s, mid 70s, and I passed the class. But that kind of like killed the math for me, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to still be a teacher, and I was thinking like biology at the time. And then my junior year, I got to play at a lot of events for my club. I've played for some of my teachers, and at one of the events, one of my teachers messaged me on this app called Teams that we use for high school, and she was telling me about how she got her kid to play the piano because she heard me play the piano.
Wow.
So I used to send her videos of me playing the piano so her kid could be inspired to play, and then she kept up with it. And that made me think that I wanted to be a music teacher because I saw that I can use my passion to teach kids and be a teacher and a role model and do what I enjoy. And I think when you're looking for a career, it's not what will make you the money. I mean, money's important because you need to like get around in life.
Of course.
But I think that if you can hold a stable career, do something you enjoy, and make good money with it, and not feel exhausted, and then do better for the people around you at the same time and build everybody up, I think that's something that, like, those are my goals. Those are my aspirations. That's what I want to do for like my life.
Yeah, that was another question I had, but listen, we'll get there, man. You're good. You're good. You're like predicting my questions before they even happen. So, kudos to you. But very cool. Very cool. I like that. And then let's see. Do you have any regrets? Right? Anything
Okay.
come to your mind?
I actually have two.
Two regrets. Okay.
The first one, I was a camp counselor, and I worked with my girlfriend, well, my ex at the time, and she's still my ex.
She's still okay.
Yeah, she's still my ex. Yes, I worded that horribly.
Yeah.
And I had this bracelet that had a bunch of smiley faces on it.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever the kids got sad or really upset, I would give them my bracelet and call that a magical bracelet, and I would say it makes you happy when you wear it. And I would only give it occasionally, like rarely, when someone was upset.
Yeah.
And one day at the time, my ex was upset, and it was like our last day of work, and I wasn't going to see her for a really long time. And I didn't know what to do because I wanted to give it to my favorite kid before he left, so we had a memory because we wanted to give each other gifts before we left. So I was going to give him the bracelet, and he was going to give me some random gift. I didn't know what it was at the time. So instead of me like choosing, I let the kid decide if I give him the bracelet or I gave my ex at the time the bracelet. And he told me to give it to my ex, and that is like a semi-regret in my life because I wish I gave it to him.
Yeah.
He got me an Attack on Titan book. I love Attack on Titan. It's an anime.
You're a big fan?
Yeah, very.
Are you a big anime guy?
Yes, but I watch a lot of like mainstream stuff, like all the underground stuff I don't really know.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you mean the underground stuff?
There's a lot of like anime out there that it just, I feel like there's a popular amount of anime, like popular music like J. Cole, Kendrick, and then there's like smaller artists that you don't know, like maybe like Marlon Craft or something like that, who make good music, but not a lot of people know about it because it hasn't been like broadcasted that much.
The only anime that I watched a little bit is My Hero Academia.
I've heard about it. I haven't watched it, but I know, like, what's the main character's name? Deku?
Deku.
Yes, Deku.
Deku. I think the anime is cool, especially like when they speak in Japanese and it's like, I don't know, like the language is very,
the emotion is
very
so
passionate.
strong.
It's
Yeah.
so strong.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't even know what they're saying. Like I just look at the subtitle,
Yeah.
but like you could feel and you could feel the passion. You know? So I think that's really cool. And then you said that there's another regret.
Okay, yes, there is one more, and I definitely regret this one a lot more than the first one.
Okay.
So this is in my second relationship.
Second relationship.
Yeah, second relationship.
Oh boy. Jermaine's love life.
Okay, we're not gonna go too deep.
We're getting a little glimpse.
Only had 2 relationships.
Yeah.
So at the time, my ex-girlfriend, she told me a guy hit her up, and I told her to leave him alone and just like ignore the message because it doesn't really matter. I wasn't too worried about it, but there was a lot of like bad like communication about the situation in general
between you and the ex.
How do I have to figure out how to word this?
Yeah.
Like,
take your time.
There was a lot of issues about whose friend should be who and who's this person should be hanging out with, and this person was a bad role model. He would smoke a lot, and I don't like smoking at all, and I wouldn't want to be in a relationship with a person who smokes. And one time, she hit a vape with him in front of me, like when I walked into the room, and I did not like that.
Yeah.
And then after that, I left that alone. I just told her I don't want to be in a relationship if you vape again, and she didn't vape after that. And then one day she told me that he hit her up again, and I told her let's prank him. So I went to the room that they were at, and then she pretended to go out with him and go to the room, and then I was in there and I confronted him. I didn't do anything to him. I just was like, yo, you shouldn't be talking to other people's girls like that. And I mean, the only reason why I regret it is because I didn't need to do that. I think I actually wanted to not at some point, but she already started like talking to him, and she was going through with it, and I didn't know how to like tell her to just like it's not worth it at all.
Yeah.
The lesson from this, I think, is you don't have to. If you're okay in your life, you don't need to go out and cause more
Harm than necessary.
More harm
right?
than necessary. And I think that was one of the first times that I've like put myself and her in a harmful situation, and that is one of my biggest regrets because that was completely unnecessary, and that's not something I've actually like done before. I've always been the type of person to like avoid as much conflict and keep it as peaceful as possible.
But listen, I think you learned a valuable lesson from that. So
like as much as it is a regret, I take that as a learning experience as well.
Yeah, 100%. What do you think makes a regret a regret, right? Because I don't know. I feel you always hear people say, "Oh, like there are no regrets." It's all there are no mistakes in life. Because you learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
But does there kind of come? Is there a fine line where it's like, listen, this was such a big mistake that it really is a regret?
I mean, I guess this can be interpreted in different ways, but I think regrets are more as because some people be like, man, I wish I went to college or something like that. That's a regret that they have, and I think it just comes down to choice. I think people who have a lot of regrets sometimes could be in the right mindset but choose the wrong choice. Like, have you ever heard that saying? A person can know what's right and pick wrong, and they will always be wrong. I think that regrets mostly come from people who understand what they need to do, because
you don't do it.
Yeah, because to have a regret, you have to understand what was right and what was wrong. And I don't think having a lot of regrets is necessarily bad, but I think as you go along in life, you won't look at it as regrets and look at it as learning experience. Like when I call them regrets, there are things in my life that I'm not really like I wish I did something different about that. But at the end of the day, I've learned from them. Like I'm not inside hurt that I gave her the bracelet instead of him because it came from good intentions. The second one, it came more off as like a little bit more of bad intentions, but I understood in between me doing it before it actually like happened that I shouldn't be doing this, and that's why it's a regret to me, because I realized that this isn't be something I should be doing, and I know myself that in the right mind I would have taken the more like peaceful route and I wouldn't have even bothered the situation, because when you're in a relationship you should be able to trust your partner and not have to. There's no reason to go out to other people when you and your woman are perfectly okay. There's no reason to do that.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Then to get into the next thing, right?
Of the relationship topic now.
What are your goals in life? Your goals, right? Your dreams, your aspirations.
All right. So
if I could stop time and say, Jermaine, like, do whatever you want. Like, no, All
right. So first, silly one. Well, it's not silly to me, but I want a Mustang. I want a Mach 1 Mustang.
Any reason why? Just because of the aesthetic?
I just love Mustang.
You do. Okay.
Yeah. I would love to have a grand piano. In my house when I get older. Those are like, huh?
I was gonna say you have enough room. I mean, those things are big.
Probably a living room.
Yeah. Okay.
All of my professors who are music majors have pianos now, so I'm like, if they have that like ability to get that, at some point I could reach that point as well. I mean, those are like the physical goals that I'm looking towards when I get older. But other than that, besides like a really nice house in a really nice neighborhood, I don't really have any more physical goals. I think a lot of them just stem from who I am as a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you like to get into that a little more? Like.
I mean, I think I'm very comfortable with who I am as a person, and I think a lot of the friends that I have kind of reflect that, because we all enjoy each other's time.
Yeah.
And I think it's very valuable. Even this right now, like I feel like you're pretty comfortable and you're like enjoying the conversation, and they probably are as well.
Oh, are you kidding me?
Yeah. So I think everything that I do, I want to say it's with intention, and sometimes the intention is there unintentionally. Like through life, some people like to think about every little thing, but when you have a straight path, it's less how do you do things versus how should I do things, and I think a lot of morals come into play. Like holding the door for someone, you don't really have to like do I hold the door for this person? No, no one thinks, should I hold the door for the person? You just hold the door open for them, and it's just
more instinctual.
It's just a kind gesture. It's something nice. It's not something you have to think too hard about. It's just, is this the right thing to do? I think growing up with good role models, explaining and showing you
good parenting, like that's a big part of it. Like those little things, right? Because that's something that it's instinctual. It's not something people usually think about, and you either do it or don't do it, right? It's kind of just happens. That's so interesting because you started off very, very tangible things. The Mustang, the Grand Piano, and then you started in with like the other stuff. So just having good character.
Yeah, having good character, I think, is like, if I don't think that happened, but if I lose my good character, I'm gonna be like an upset person.
You think so?
Yes, because I know who I am mentally as a person, and the people around me wouldn't want to see me get to that point in life. So it's like, I'm comfortable because I have them to keep me in check, and I have them to tell me, Jermaine, that's not right. Why'd you do that? It might hurt for a second, but at the same time, I'm gonna grow from it. So
absolutely,
that's why I'm really comfortable.
What do you think separate? If you had to say like, oh, this is a good kid, or this is a good person, bad person.
People say that.
Do you?
I love when people say that that's a good kid.
Yeah.
Do you ever like go out to like restaurants or something, or even just outside, and people who just smile? Like, have any of your parents or like grandparents have ever told you like they went to the store and the cashier behind the register smiled at them and they like that kid's gonna go far? Like stuff like that I think is very powerful, because you can be a worker and then frown all day, and now you're just giving off like a sad vibe, versus smiling and saying thank you to people. That changes a lot to people's perspective on who you are as a person, how the vibe of your area is. Because now, if I want to go in aisle 4 and the guy's frowning, I'm not gonna go to your aisle tomorrow morning. I'm gonna go to the aisle 5 where that guy's smiling and happy and wants to talk to me.
100%. I mean, I've seen that. I remember I was at church one time. Right, there was this father. He had 4 kids, and all the kids were just like, they sitting there praying, like they were just so obedient, like young kids, like probably I'm gonna say ages 5 to like 14, like between the 4 of them were kind of in between those ages. And I'm like, I actually went up to the guy. I said, I don't know what you do with your kid, but you gotta give me the secret. You gotta give me the secret to raising kids, because I'm like, this is amazing. Like, you don't see that.
Yeah, no.
Especially now, like usually kids are like, on their phones or their iPads all the time. They're loud and but sitting at church like praying, like that's like I thought that was amazing.
Yeah,
I really did.
I have like the counterpart to this story. I've seen parents while I was lifeguarding, and they wouldn't pay attention to their kids, and their kids would be running around the pool with like no supervision, except us, obviously, because we're lifeguards. But
you're a lifeguard?
Yeah,
I'm a lifeguard.
Oh, really?
So.
That's what's up.
Oh man.
It's just like it's a little like scary that these kids are gonna grow up with the parenting that they're with, and they're not gonna know until they get put in a situation where they have to make that decision immediately. Whereas a kid who's had the proper parenting would already know what's gonna happen or what could happen. Like when I was lifeguarding, I saw this mother leave her kid out on the pool. He was probably like 4 years old. And he was walking by the pool deck, and I had to like walk with him everywhere I went, and I couldn't find his mother at the time because she wasn't there. She was just like laying down on her phone, and we couldn't connect the kid to the mother because the kid didn't look like her mom, so I couldn't figure out who the kid belonged to. The kid couldn't speak or anything.
Oh man, that's awful.
And then we ended up finding out that she had another kid, and he was on the opposite side. We have like a pool, and then we have a spray park, and she had one kid.
Cool.
In an entire different park, and there was no father. It was just the mother, and she wasn't watching her kids. And I think parenting like that, where you just don't care, kids will just do whatever they want and will be lashful, and they're gonna try to find reasons to like get attention, just stray into the wrong direction. And a parent should be a caregiver to their child, and if you're not gonna be a caregiver to the child's gonna go find reasons to need caregiving from other people. And sometimes they might not get that, and they might get the exact opposite and find more reasons to be negative.
You even think about like why someone would enter an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
Right? Because that attention, that I guess you could say that love, right? Like people seek that. People seek that, and if you're not getting it through, your parents, you're going to seek it elsewhere.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's not always positive.
Yeah.
And it can really hurt people. But we're talking about a lot about kids, right? So how about family? Is that something that you
Yeah.
desire to have one day? Have a
Yeah.
a wife and kids?
Yeah. I would want 2 kids.
2 kids. Okay.
I guess it's just because me and my brother, we're just 2
Yeah.
siblings, and we get along really well.
How old is your brother?
He's 28. He's actually a lot older than I am.
28, wow.
Yeah, we get along really well though.
Would you say he's a role model in your life?
Yes, in some aspects, and then
and no in others.
yes, no in others.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to get into it if you want.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I just think we both have a lot of different drives. Like he's a lot more focused on basketball.
Really?
And I mean, I don't really know how much he's intact with like the conversation we're having right now because we don't really talk like this. We more so like joke around a lot and just like play games and just like laugh all the time.
Gotcha. Very like goofy.
Yeah, a lot very silly sports. Yeah. He's really good at sports. But yeah. I think on this perspective, I don't know if we're the same or if we're different because we never had the conversation. So I would say that role model wise, he's a role model. But in this perspective of my life, I think he doesn't play a massive role, but he can. I can see it happening if we have this conversation maybe, or maybe he can learn from me, vice versa.
Gotcha. And then I want to talk about, I don't know if you have a girlfriend or whatever, right? But what you look for in a girl. Like what are the traits, if you had to say?
First, you gotta look good.
Okay. Attraction, right?
Yes,
Attraction's
attractive.
important.
But I think personality is very like amazing to me. I think having just a good personality overall is one of the best things you could have. Patience a lot.
Yeah.
I don't want to like steer into like the attire, but there's like a lot of attractive attire that people wear that I feel like is very like low key. I can't even describe because I don't even know what it's called. I'm like under a rock half the time, but you can just tell by people like the way people speak, the way they dress, the way they walk, people they hang out with. I think there's certain categories of people that are more attractive than others, and sometimes it's even scary because it's like, wow, you're so like intact with yourself, you're so like focused, you have like goals, and it's scary sometimes, but it's like I gotta match that level at some point, and I think that's something that I would look for in a relationship, and also a person who's also patient and understanding, because if something happens, you need to be able to talk to your partner about it, and if one or the other isn't patient, there's going to be an issue no matter what happens. There's always going to be some form of miscommunication.
That's huge. You see it all the time in relationships where things start going south because there's a lack of communication. People in a relationship are afraid to be direct. A lot of times I think it stems from insecurity where people are trying to kind of put the mask up, like kind of put on a front like I'm this kind of person, but in reality you're very different, but I think communication is key.
I've actually also had that too. I've had people tell me like, you're perfect, how are you perfect, this can't be you, and it's like I can't explain to you otherwise because it is me, and I don't perceive myself as perfect because then I go downhill from there because like everything needs to be like 100%. Like I can give my 100%, but if I'm not 100%, that's where I am. But yeah, I forgot I was losing my track. I'm sorry, could you repeat what you last said?
Oof. I mean, we're bouncing, but it's good though. What did I last say?
Ooh.
I was talking about communication. How communication is very important.
It was a little bit after that, but it is on the same track. Yeah.
I mean, if you don't, think about it, right? I do have another question.
Oh, you can ask the question. We can go back to it later. Maybe.
Yeah. You mentioned like what girls wear, right? Would you say you I guess you prefer when girls are more modest, right? Especially in this day and age, right? You see a lot of girls who are very wear very revealing clothing.
I mean,
would you say that's a huge factor for you, or?
Yes and no. Like,
okay,
I wouldn't go to a person who's like extremely revealing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go tell them you can't wear that.
Of course, but do you find it, I guess?
Yes, I find it less attractive, and I think it's a little bit more like I would see that as like if I talk to you, probably gonna be friends, and I probably wouldn't want to go further than that. Whereas a person who's a little bit more like modest, you said, and a little bit more
Modesty.
calm,
Yeah.
then I would probably want to talk to you more. But it
Gotcha.
mostly does stem from the personality. I think
Mhm.
that I can be shocked. I can be shocked. I can find a person who dresses like that and has an amazing personality, amazing like tone, amazing vibe,
Yeah.
amazing family.
Yeah. Is that something else you look for?
Yeah.
Their family?
Yeah, I think so too. I think like have you ever heard that saying that your friends are a reflection of who you are? I think a family some will also tie into that as well. Even if it's a negative background, it explains a lot about a person and how they grew from it.
Definitely.
Like I've had friends who their parents weren't the best role models, but they understood that and grew a lot from it. And I actually wrote
It can make or break people.
Yeah.
You know.
And I find it very amazing. From the psychology club. We got.
I'm a psych major, right? So you know.
We got a book from your club, and
Get out of here.
we used it as I forgot what it was called. It's like black ink where you draw what you.
The ink block.
The ink block, yes.
Yes.
So we did like a few pages of it, and I spoke about one of the things. But then I started using the book as like something I found like inspiring or shocking from the people I spoke to, and one of my friends was going through a tough time, and I didn't speak to him for months because I let him have his time to like grow from what happened to him. But I would reach out to him from time to time to see how he was doing. And a few months ago we spoke, and I was amazed at how much he grew. So I took the book and I titled it Resilience, and I wrote about
his experience.
Yes, from what he told me.
Get out of here.
And then I showed it to him, and then
did he like it?
Yeah. And then
how many pages is it?
I mean, I actually keep them very short. It's a page long. It's almost like a poem, but it's just in normal.
So you're really, I mean, you know, you're into music, but I feel like you're very, I don't know, like you're artistic. Like even like with these little things, you know, like.
I like to say that I'm creative.
Creative.
I think music's a big part in my life, but
it's one vessel.
Yes.
It's one vessel.
Mm-hmm.
Would you describe yourself as a visionary?
Could you like go a little bit more?
Yeah, visionary meaning you visualize things, right? Like you visualize your future and you visualize kind of what you want out of life.
Yeah.
You do.
And I would consider myself a visuary.
A visionary.
Visionary, yes.
A visionary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would consider myself that. And I've done it a few more times after that. It kind of like had a train. I actually wrote one yesterday about passion.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to, but I mean, I would be curious to read these. You know.
I don't have them with me.
Okay.
I've written I think about six. I try not to like write everything I hear. I like to write things where it's like, whoa, that's actually a very interesting perspective. I like that.
Yeah.
And I can kind of write the definition of what it really means and then how it applies to that person.
So you like to write these things through other people's lenses.
Yeah, I started this after I got the book from you guys, and I found it like really cool. Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you're looking forward to in particular? In the future.
How far future?
It can be recent. It could be or it could be later on.
Okay, well, I guess soon. I got field day I'm going to with some of my friends.
Field day?
Meeting new people. Yeah, on the 30th.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to lifeguard a little bit earlier than I did last year because I'm not in high school anymore. So we graduate we get out of school a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Other than that, I guess just I am excited to get better at piano and learn a lot more things. I got my professor to give me a lot more difficult, challenging pieces that I currently am not like good enough to like play all of it right now. But I need to take the summer and see if I can like match that level because like I would consider myself right here and the music is right here and I need to get up here to like play all of it. So
is it more of a technique thing or is it just really just putting the time in?
It's definitely
getting the muscle memory.
It's definitely a lot more unknown technique that I need to look at a lot and just play over time. And I've actually saw this video saying which I don't want to necessarily apply it to this piece because I want to learn the piece, but it does apply to life, I think. Instead of jumping to something that's very difficult, you can look at it and practice it a little bit to get comfortable with some parts of it.
Chunk it.
Yes, in pieces. And I thought that was very powerful because people will try things and if they don't get it, they'll give up. Yeah. Whereas if you try,
you have to break it down.
Yeah. Whereas if you try it a few times, you can get used to it, and you might not be the best at it, but at some point you've built the layout for it, and you can grow from that. And that's what I'm gonna try to do with this piece over the summer. So hopefully, when I get back in August, I'll have a lot of the piece done.
Yeah, even in psychology, a big thing for me is like writing long papers.
Mm-hmm.
I would get overwhelmed. A 10-page paper, 14-page paper.
Mm-hmm.
How do you even go about that?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I do. I make an outline.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, this topic, couple pages. This topic, couple pages. And before you know it, you get to your 14 pages. So sometimes I think when you break it down in chunks, it's huge. It helps a lot.
Yeah, it definitely does.
This is a very, very general question,
Okay.
right? In your opinion,
Mm.
what's life all about? What's the meaning of life?
If I had to think and get really in depth,
Yeah.
I would think. I think love's very powerful, and it can be interpreted how you would like to believe. But if it's my opinion, I love my friends. I love my family.
Yeah.
I love.
Now let me take it up a notch. I think you know where I'm going with this, right?
Okay.
What is love?
Oh my God, yo.
Right? I mean,
without putting a definite.
people, you know what it is? The reason I ask you this, just so you know, is because I see people all the time. Oh, I love you. I love you.
Yeah.
What does that? What is it? People just throw that phrase around like it's like it's nothing, But obviously, I mean, love is a powerful thing, and I agree with you. Love is super powerful.
I think love means a lot of things, and it can be put in a lot of different perspectives. Like, you can love somebody and try to get them to do the difficult things in life that they need to do. Love could be just spending time and enjoying your time with another person. Love can just be hanging out and goofing off. Love could even be just like learning things together. Love can be quietness as well, just like calm. No, you don't have to speak to another person. Just the fact that you're comfortable in that spot with them.
It's almost like you get the image of an old married couple.
Yeah,
right? They're sitting on the porch.
Yeah.
It's 7:00 in the morning, drinking their cup of coffee. Right? They're not saying a word. They're just sitting out, just enjoying, each other's presence.
Like, they made it to that point where they love each other enough to where they can be comfortable in silence with each other.
Yes.
Like, that's powerful.
And that's powerful. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you would say that what life is all about is just love, like loving others and.
Yes, I would consider that like a piece of life, but I think there's just so much that it would take up like a lot. Like, I think love is a big part, but I think there's other aspects. Like, obviously there's the grind in life to want to get better and stuff, but at the same time that ties back to love.
It ties back to
There's so many ties that come from other places that are interconnected in life.
You think of like the working man, right, who provides for his family, and maybe works a job that he doesn't really care for. But why does he do it?
Yeah.
Why does he kill himself in this job? Why? Because he loves his family so much. So through labor, through hard work, sometimes that's the root of it is love in of itself, And then my last and final question: where do you find purpose?
Where do I find purpose? I find purpose in my friends. I find purpose in all of the work and things that I try and work on. I even find purpose in the games that I play. I find purpose in the conversations that I have with people. I even find purpose in the food that I eat.
Really?
Yeah.
Really, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
More, like, in what sense? Just like the experience that you're gaining from it, or
obviously there's a lot of junk food and sweets, and I eat junk food and sweets. But at home, I've always gotten a lot of good meals, and I think it's definitely made me like grow, develop, and be strong.
Yep.
And I think food's very important in people's life. I grew up eating a lot of like rice, chicken, and like vegetables and stuff.
That's good stuff.
And I've actually been cooking recently on campus because I ran out of meals waves.
You doing?
Yeah, I doing. I think there's a lot of purpose in everything people do. That's why I said food is something I have purpose in, because even the little things you do in life, there's a purpose behind it.
There's intention, right?
Yeah,
you choose
intention.
to eat your chicken and rice. You choose to, drink your cup of coffee. I mean, I guess everything has purpose. You get it from the little things.
Yeah.
The little things, the
even
big
earlier
things.
We said it, like opening the door for people. That's intention, but like you don't have to like really think too hard about it. It's just morals.
Gotcha. Jermaine, any closing thoughts?
You got any questions anymore? Or
No more questions.
What do you think the purpose of life is?
Wow, viewers, Jermaine's asking me questions.
I'm the guy now.
Yeah, wow. What do I think the purpose of
Yeah.
life is? You know, it's an interesting question, Jermaine, and it's something that I've pondered for a long time. You know, I would say probably maybe my junior, senior year in high school, I started to really kind of think about those bigger questions. You know, right now we're in the Interfaith Center, right? And one thing about me is, I would say recently, you know, I've been growing very strong in my faith, right? You know, I'm a practicing Catholic, right? So I find purpose through God, through Jesus Christ, and, you know, growing my relationship closer to the Lord. I would say that's the biggest thing, and then everything from there kind of stems from that, you know, because even in, I think it's like the book of John, right, in the Gospels, it says, I don't know what religion you are, but it says like God is love, right? So like you said love, and I kind of correlated that.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say.
I actually have one last question.
Yeah,
sure. I do think about this from time to time, and I've seen it from my friends because we've had like conversations like this, so it's a little bit in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
So, from the beginning to where you are now, are you comfortable with your life, and do you think everything up to this point you are happy with, and you want to grow from where you've started? Like, are you happy with the path that you're taking?
Am I happy with the journey?
Yes.
Just like everything that's like, would I change anything?
That's why you're proud.
I don't know if I'd say I'm proud. Oof. Can you repeat the question?
From, I guess you can pick any age that you want up until now. Would you say I'll rephrase it. I guess the growth and the changes that you've made in your life. Are you proud of a lot of the changes you made?
Yeah, I'm very happy with how my life has progressed. You know, for better or for worse. You know, like I feel like everything that's happened in my life, like I've grown from, right? So I'm not going to say like, oh, like I want to change this, but keep this, right? Because life is a progression, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like I know in jazz, right? There's chord progressions, right? There's chord progressions. You can't just go into like certain chords without hitting other chords, right? So in life is the same way. You know, you can't say, oh, you know, I liked being 15, but 16, you know, wasn't so good. I'd like to just erase that. No, you have that as life, right? So absolutely.
I look at it that way too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't like just.
People you can't skip. You know, it's like reading a book, right? Like you can't just. I mean, you can obviously. You can skip certain parts, but when you look at a book, you have to. If someone says, "Oh, how did you like that book?" You have to look at the whole thing. You know. So.
Yeah, I think that at least in my life, I think every chapter in my life was very important, even if it wasn't the greatest chapter. I think it got me to where I am.
Exactly.
And I think there's a lot of like unfortunate situations in people's life where they want to block things out, which is very unfortunate for them because it's like just not like okay for them. But I think the main focus in life is how you're gonna grow from this, where you're gonna go next, because life doesn't end at that bad point.
Life doesn't end until we don't have to get into that, but
that's fine.
It's kind of like I think what separates successful people from unsuccessful people is something happens to you, something happens to me. What are you gonna do about it? You know, some people they crumble, like they can't handle it, you know, and some people are able to move past that.
And you know, I actually think crumbling sometimes can be okay as long as you can build back up from it. Like I can.
Yeah, I mean, you hear these stories about people hitting rock bottom. You know, maybe doing heavy drugs or just you know what I mean, like hitting really rough patches and bouncing back. And not only I guess everybody's definition of success is different, right? But like people having these great success stories. So.
Yeah, like even I know like time's almost up, but my grandma always loved to say that the people who are like carrying the bottles and that's their job, she likes to sit there, they're a lot stronger than her. even though she's in a position where she's making more money, she's in a home, she thinks that the people who are out there who are surviving off of just recycling bottles are a lot stronger than her. I think
Really?
that's like very I don't know the word, but it's just like she understands the difficulty they have to go through their life. I think from her perspective, she thinks that if she was placed in that position, or the position she's in right now, is life's easier for her. I actually don't remember exactly why I brought this up, but people who are put in a lot of unfortunate situations and then grow from it, I think they're very powerful people. Like my friend earlier when I was talking about resilience, I think what he went through was extremely difficult to go through, and I don't know how I would be able to go through it if I went through the exact same situation that he did. But it was powerful enough to make me want to write about him in my book to try to understand a little bit more.
Yeah. It's really cool. All right, Jermaine, thank you so much.
No problem.